The Everything Sequel Podcast is brought to you by the Everything Sequel Podcast. The Everything Sequel Podcast contains explicit language. 'Cause we learned it from you, Dad. Tom Stewart of Lonesome Whistle Productions. Say hello, Tom.
Bitch! Or should I say, pitch?
Yeah.
It also made me think of the inaugural Key and Peele sketch.
Oh.
You know, I said, bitch. You know, the two
That's
husbands
right.
who are trying to call their wives bitches with them in the room, and
And
they
they're
just
in
get
the
further
room.
and
That's
further
right.
away, and then they end up in space, I think, so their wives don't hear them calling them. I said, bitch. Quiet. So good.
That's good shit.
It is.
Which this might not be. We'll find out.
No, I don't think so. It's
it sounds like your heart was not into it.
No, my heart was in it. It's just a little underdeveloped.
Okay.
It's just a little underbaked right now.
Right.
I think the bones are there though. Although, you know, I not normally for these pitches I rely on my work ethic.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas for this one, this is more of a
You relied on your laziness?
No, I've taken more of a spiritualist approach. I've let the universe cosmically tell me what to do, which is not a sentence you'll hear from me that often. Because I don't believe in that bullshit.
Yeah.
But nonetheless,
Here I am.
through the process of automatic writing, I bring you my pitch.
You fed it into an AI machine.
I kind of did, actually. But just like AI that wasn't connected to the internet. So once again, Creed's thoughts, essentially,
Yes,
from
right.
The Office. The Word document that isn't connected to the internet, that he just keeps piping in his hateful thoughts.
You were starting to work on it at work and wanted to feed it in, but the internet went out and you found yourself making Creed notes.
Yeah. Kind of. Basically, I took inspiration from mistakes that people more cosmically minded would say weren't mistakes, weren't accidents.
Okay.
But they were just accidents.
Okay. All right.
But some of it is thoughtful, but other parts of it is more like chance based. What is the science that Jeff Goldblum studies in Jurassic Park? Is it chance theory? What is it?
Chaos.
Chaos theory? Yeah. This feels like a chaos theory. Is that a real thing, chaos theory?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, this is based on chaos theory then.
Is that real? Then that's what this is based on.
Well, yeah, so water, is it going to go one way? Is it going to go the other? One dog goes one way, one dog goes the other.
This guy in the middle. He's saying,
Just
what do you
saying,
want from
what
me?
do you want from me? A pitch?
I'm the guy in the middle.
Yeah. Yeah, so I but certain elements have kind of come together enough for me to do a semi-coherent pitch.
All right.
So as you can probably tell, it was quite a journey.
Yeah, it does sound like it.
Nicely took place over a very short period of time, but it doesn't sound like it. Sounds like years of creativity, but it actually all took place within the 48-hour period.
Excellent.
What about you?
What about me?
Have you worked on this at all? I don't know if we knew we were going to be doing this today.
Yeah, it's one of those things where as we're kind of watching these movies and then talking about them over the last week or week and a half or 2 weeks or however long it's been.
Yeah.
You're just sort of mulling it, turning it over in your brain. Mm-hmm. And then, of course, it was at some point today where I said to myself, fuck, we might pitch. I better write something down, and started kind of, mulling an idea that turned into something that from an idea perspective, I like.
So you like the idea, you don't necessarily like the film that it might become?
No, I guess what I mean is I'm hooking into a specific time period, and it's as though I have something to say outside of just cops and criminals in Detroit and Beverly Hills. There's an uber point to it, I suppose.
Space?
No, it's still going to involve just cops and criminals in Detroit and Beverly Hills.
Okay.
But
it's a metaphor for...
Yeah, but there's a metaphor there for something else.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, there's got to be... I don't know if we talked about this before, but there's got to be a reason for going back to the well.
Mm-hmm.
And often it's the wrong reason the sequels go back to the well.
Sure.
And you kind of see that quite a lot, where filmmakers go back because they want to say something rather than return. I mean, it's the Arthur Conan Doyle dilemma. Goes all the way back to literature with him. He kills off Sherlock Holmes, and the popularity of Sherlock Holmes forces him to do what he wanted to do as a writer. Otherwise, always in the format of a Sherlock Holmes story. So if you read the Sherlock Holmes novels that he did, they're not anything to do with Sherlock Holmes. They're independent stories. They just have a Sherlock Holmes framing narrative, because he wasn't interested in doing that, but he couldn't get anything published unless it was had the word Sherlock Holmes in it.
Right.
So I'm not saying your pitch is going to be like that. I'm just saying it's always a...
It might be.
Yeah. I mean, it's something that you see a lot in sequels, that someone gets passionate about a topic and thinks, characters from some popular franchise I've done could be involved in this somehow.
Yes, right.
When it doesn't necessarily...
Well, when Christopher Reeve gets a bug up his ass about nuclear weapons...
Yeah, there you go.
You get Superman 4: The Quest for Peace.
There's that episode of that post 9/11 episode of The West Wing, where they have them locked down, and it was kind of like... I suppose The West Wing should have a response to 9/11, but then it doesn't exist in its fictional world, so...
Right.
They just had to lock a bunch of kids in the White House, and so they can have a...
Q&A.
Discussion. Yeah. And don't they have the actors come on at the beginning and say, now don't try and find out where it is in the timeline?
Yeah, exactly.
Because Aaron Sorkin and his coke-fueled fury did not think about that.
He wrote this on napkins over the period of 17 minutes on a lunch break. And somehow we're all here.
Yeah. Well, that's it. I mean, that's interesting. I suppose, like, where are we in the series? I suppose is the question. I mean, we've already decided this is the story of the decline of cinema. Okay, so that's
we both
one
decided,
story.
did we?
Yeah, we did.
Okay,
we both
fine.
decided that. Specifically, you and I reluctantly agreed that was the case. But that's one story these movies tell. But otherwise, it's three very different sequels. But, well, I don't know. Are they sequels of their time? Like, are they? In some senses, they are. Beverly Hills Cop 2 very much feels like a 1987 movie.
Yeah.
Beverly Hills Cop 3...
It feels like a cartoon more than anything.
It feels like a movie made in the era of Convergence, and we talked about that, but...
Yeah, true.
Is it a 90s movie? I don't know, but, I mean, Axel F could not be more 2024 if it tried.
Yeah, that's true.
So... I don't know, like, how many of these... What would you call, apart from IP cinema, which, by the way, we should be trademarking, because I don't hear it used, and I think it's gonna be big. It's going to be bigger than IP itself.
All we need is
it's going to be its own IP.
Of consequence to actually listen to the podcast episode.
Yeah. Or two.
Yeah.
We know of at least 2 people of consequence who listen to the show.
Yes.
What happens after this? Is it too contemporary for us to know? Like when you have a belated sequel, remake, what is Axel F?
Well,
reunion.
I don't know about for you, but for me, it's not going to matter at all.
Okay.
I didn't want to. Not even I, who almost always wants to tackle that problem, did not want to tackle that problem.
Oh, I tackled that problem.
Okay.
I'm moving forward.
All right.
I'm
firmly ensconced in our time machine.
That's fine, and you're permitted to do that. But I'm not going to allow myself to do what Axel F did to Beverly Hills Cop 3, which is to pretend it didn't exist.
Fine.
Even though I don't like that it exists. I don't want to take anything for it, but I'm not going to pretend it doesn't exist just for my own gratification. Yeah.
Fine.
So I'm gonna out of pure spite, I'm gonna continue on for probably the first time ever, because I'm usually the one who does an interquel, but not this time.
Well, I felt like an interquel was the perfect vehicle for me, the story I ended up wanting to tell. Plus, because of how the movies are spaced out, I can put it in a perfect place as well.
Oh, interesting. Like a milestone.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's another big thing about leaving such a big gap, is that unevenness it gives the series.
Mm-hmm.
Especially when you're watching it back to back. I mean, it's striking when you go from 94 to 2024.
Sure.
In terms of the aging and just the way cinema has changed.
Mm-hmm.
And it's that kind of, and you get from Godfather 2 to 3, and there's that doing a belated sequel is difficult in that sense.
It's certainly difficult, but
to regenerate the authenticity even of a worse movie that happens closer in history to the original.
Yeah, right.
Which is what we have here, right? Beverly Hills Cop 3 kind of feels more authentic, even though it's not true at all to the series, but just because it's closer to 1984 than 2024 is.
Yeah, right.
Which is interesting. And yet the Rocky movies have none of these problems. How did they get away with that?
I know, right?
With that. That's remarkable.
Secret smart person.
Or the Friday the 13th movies.
Yeah.
They're just special. I think they're just special.
Agreed.
I was thinking about that the other day. I was like, about Friday the 13th.
Of course you were.
The original was. No, but I thought to myself, definitely the third best of those movies.
What? Which one?
The first one. Like the original.
Yeah.
It's like, definitely the third best of those movies. It's like, what a series that you can say that.
Yeah, that's not often, right?
Because I was finally deciding, I was like, is it better or worse than Jason Lives? And I'm like, no, it's third. It's definitely third, and Jason Lives is. I was like, fucking hell, it could have been the fourth best movie in the series.
I don't remember where I originally placed it on Patreon.
I think you put it third, but maybe with 2 different movies ahead of me.
Really?
Like,
because it feels like I would have put it fourth.
2 and 6.
Or no, I might have gone 4 and 6 ahead of it, and have 2. No, that doesn't make sense though.
No, it doesn't. You like 2 more than I do, I think.
I think you like 2 more than me. You know what? This is not what we're here to do.
No, it's not. And this is certainly not one of those series.
All right,
but it's a striking contrast to you know, you can make a series that goes on for fucking decades, and each era has something recommending it, but it seldom happens in sequels.
Right.
Do you think, because you have a better sense of this than I do.
Go ahead.
I always assume, I think more out of wishful thinking than anything else, that, oh no, that's it, they're done now. That was the last one they want to make. Do you think they want to make more Beverly Hills Cop streams, Quibbies?
I think they do. I think...
See, you always have, because I don't. I feel like, okay, well, you know, Goodfellas, well, that's that. You know? But you always say, no, I think they do, and you're always right, like 100%. And then the next thing I see is a news story about how they're fucking developing some TV series, or we're doing a reboot. And I'm like, fuck, he nailed it again. How does he see this when all I see is closure?
Well, you're confusing what's on screen as opposed to what happens off screen.
I think so.
That's the problem. So,
but
they see a positively reviewed movie with lots of streams, and they think to themselves, hey, don't you want to do this again?
The streams. Cross the streams. Don't you want... Yeah, okay. One of the few ways in which you're more cynical than I am.
It's the same with picking Oscar winners on Oscar night. You can't pick the one you hope wins. You have to pick the one that's going to win.
Mm-hmm. It's funny, though, like you know how, as the managing director of the How Dare You Awards...
Yes.
You're anti-Razzies.
Yes.
Not just because they're the competition, but because they're a fundamentally flawed organization.
Yeah.
But I think the Oscars is the same. Like, I'm reading a biography of Judy Garland at the moment, and for all that we say, oh, you know, comedies used to win Oscars and that kind of thing. Like, by the 40s, like, movies that Judy Garland made at MGM, or just MGM movies in general, didn't get a look in the Oscars. It was all movies like The Lost Weekend. It was like social problem movies.
Yeah.
Like worthy subjects. So the Oscars has been tainted with that idea of what film is for
a long time,
since its inception. Yeah. Because like Meet Me in St. Louis wasn't even considered for any Oscar.
Mm-hmm.
That's astounding, the quality of that movie.
Sure.
At a time where you think people have more respect for entertainment as art.
Yeah.
But the Oscars still didn't. The Oscars were still like, no, I want a stagey movie about a guy hanging bottles of whiskey out on his fucking shitty apartment building for 2
I always
hours.
think of Get Shorty when they're talking about Martin Weir, and John Travolta says, well, no, I mean, his best movie is the gay crippled guy who climbed Mount Whitney.
Yeah.
Pure Oscar bait.
And another learned a lot from watching only Gene Hackman movies. Like some sort of weird version of Super Size Me with Gene Hackman movies. But I watched Postcards from the Edge and finally looked up who the director that Gene Hackman plays is supposed to be a version of, because obviously it's Carrie Fisher and Debbie Reynolds.
So I'm her life.
Well, if he's playing a director, he's probably at least a composite of some real directors. And the consensus is it was Richard Donner.
Yeah.
Supposed to be Dick Donner.
I remember
and I just think,
that at the time, I think.
I just think that, like, Gene Hackman, Lex Luthor, played Richard Donner in a movie.
Yeah.
It's just wonderful. What a wonderful thing to happen.
I like her hanging off the edge of the building.
It's very funny.
She puts her hands up.
Yeah. It's a really successful film. Really successful. And, you know, it's one of those movies where, like Twilight, where Gene Hackman is just the cherry on the cake, but the cake is really good without the cherry. Unlike, and I'm not seeing all of it yet, Enemy of the State, where I feel like Gene Hackman is the cake.
Yeah.
And the rest is just frosting.
Will Smith is not the cherry.
Yeah. Well, hey, I got no issue with Will Smith. at all, really.
Not even now?
Well, film-wise, obviously, you know, I
Okay.
don't think he should have slapped a man at a national film ceremony.
There you go.
You know, I don't think Chris Rock was entirely blameless either.
Okay, fine.
I mean, anyway, well, that's not. We don't need to relive it
again.
No need to make
not
any
here for this.
No, not here for this. We're here to pitch sequels to Beverly Hills Cop Axel F. Or prequels, or interquels, or reboots. We do whatever we want. We got a time machine.
That's right.
This week I've given you the keys to the time machine.
Exactly.
I'm staying in the present for the weekend.
The flux capacitor is on.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going 88.
That's right.
Now.
Back to 88, probably. I'm getting the sense, maybe.
A little later.
Oh, you're acknowledging the existence of Beverly Hills Cop 3.
Well, I'm going between.
Between 2 and 3?
Mm-hmm.
Wow, I really thought you'd go between 3 and Axel F.
I thought I would too. That was the original plan.
Yeah.
And then this happened.
Okay. All right. Well, I get the logic of that. That era is easier to tell a story in, I think, for this story.
Yeah. And
more natural.
Well, I'll save it for now, but
no, go ahead.
I mean, that's what I guess I was going to ask you, because you say you feel like yours is a little underbaked.
Yeah.
Mine is one of those kind of classic like last time, whatever we pitched on.
Pink Panther.
You know, a real detailed front.
Uh-huh.
More detailed, I would say, generally, than the last, whatever pitch I pitched last. But, you know, it's a couple of pages almost of notes here. So...
Yeah, you write stuff, and you can always tell because you write stuff down for this, and I don't.
Okay.
It's totally, I internalize it.
I used to do that, and lately I've been writing things down more.
Oh, I mean, that's the way I approach everything else in my life, apart from, and including this podcast, apart from this bit.
Right.
Because, I don't know.
Oh, see, I don't, other than the notes I take, I mean, I don't write down anything.
For the pitches you do, though?
It's give and take.
It's half and half. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
The writing down is really almost just a recent thing, and I'm still not doing it every time.
Okay.
I suppose it depends on how much time before we're recording when I remember I need to pitch.
Yeah. This is for some real inside baseball here.
Yeah. But if mine is long and yours is short, who should go first?
Well, you went first last time, so I'm happy to go.
Oh, all right.
Because I'm as interested in finding out about what I'm going to pitch as you are, probably.
Fine. Yeah, that sounds good.
Because I don't think I've thought this through to completion, and I don't really have a full story. Not that in any pitches other than ours you're supposed to at this stage, but traditionally when we do it, we do. So I might not go all the way to the end, but I can certainly start. Well, I have to start by telling you about the process at which I came by this pitch. Because it started with, as I alluded to earlier, what those of a more spiritual persuasion would probably call automatic writing.
Okay.
Which was that when as I do, again, more inside baseball, when I do my notes for movies, I do it on a Word document, and I title the Word document with the title of the movie. In case I want to go back and read over them and, sit by the fire with a glass of brandy and read
look at my thoughts
my
and
notes
feelings on
Weekend at Bernie's 2.
Yeah, Weekend at Bernie's 2.
But anyway, but I realized halfway through going through these movies, I was trying to look up Beverly Hills Cop, and it didn't come up right away. I was like, why is that coming right? Oh, that's because I put Beverly Hills Cops.
Uh,
And then on the podcast, we talked about that title and why the second movie wasn't that title. And I guess by your reaction, you called it Beverly Hills Cops 2.
Yeah.
2 as in TOO, not Beverly Hills Cops 2. That would be like a Trolls 2 situation.
Correct, yeah.
Oh, so we have the same title. Is that the first time that's ever happened?
Yes,
well,
I
mean,
so.
It makes sense because we had a conversation about it on the podcast. So it was. I can see
we did talk about it, and then I realized sort of the idea I pitched in the moment to make that work was the idea I was going to use anyway.
Ah.
And I just at that point couldn't not use it.
Well, I had the opposite problem because I was fighting against that title. When I was trying to think of a title, I kept fighting against that title.
Me too, yeah.
Because
it's not it's
too easy.
It's too easy, and it's a little awkward having those two S's. Beverly Hills Cops.
Oh yeah, and I think I wanted to change it to Beverly Hill Cops, but I realized that there's no. You can't do that. It doesn't make any sense.
Me too.
If I could, I would.
I thought the same thing.
Oh, you did?
I kept thinking of ways to change it.
There's no Beverly Hill.
Yeah.
I found my dream on Beverly Hill. No, that's not what Fats Domino was singing about. Yeah, so I tried to do that, but couldn't do it. So Beverly Hills Cops, but I didn't want to use that as a title because it whatever pool of ideas I have that title didn't really connect with them.
Mm-hmm.
And then I thought, okay, so through some process of automatic writing, I put that. We talked about it on the podcast. The universe wants me to pick this title.
Right.
So I was like, okay, challenge accepted, universe. That's my title. And so I was like, and then I was thinking, okay, well, what kind of a story was I trying to tell, irregardless of the title, and where could the title meet that in the middle? And so I was thinking about when these sequels work, and they do this all too rarely, is it goes back to the original idea of we want some satire and commentary on what's going on in Beverly Hills.
Mm.
And how life there is different from everywhere else in America, right? That's the idea behind the series. And so I was thinking about, what are our associations with Beverly Hills now? And my mind immediately goes to Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. So I go, okay, reality show. That is something, Beverly Hills reality show is something that could absolutely be addressed. Or just the idea of rich people's, the Bravo rich people reality show that's represented by Real Housewives and Ladies of London and, all those kinds of things.
Whatever, yeah.
And, one of those is set in Beverly Hills, but Beverly Hills could encompass many of those kinds of shows. And then I was like, okay, so Beverly Hills Cops. Cops is a reality show. Okay. So I was like, maybe Beverly Hills Cops is a pun on Cops. The Beverly Hill version of the show Cops.
Mm-hmm.
So this is where my mind's going. And then I was like, okay, so Beverly Hills reality shows. Now I've got to add in our characters and a story. Okay. So I thought, and I sort of reverse engineered in comedic terms. I was like, what's the kind of funniest use of this device? And then I thought back to my major beef with Axel F, which is that here's Axel Foley, an undercover cop, known to anyone and everyone in Detroit.
Mm-hmm.
So I was thinking, okay, I've got to get, in order for this, basically what I want to do is I want to have Axel Foley, he needs to hide out. He needs to hide out from someone in Detroit.
Mm.
Basically, he's been burned as an undercover cop. and he's got bad guys after him. So he needs to hide out somewhere where he's not known. So he'd go to Beverly Hills, but of course he gets in Beverly Hills and everyone he knows there is involved in some kind of reality show. So he's continually trying to avoid being on TV and being seen by a national audience, which would expose him to the bad guys that he's trying to find. So this is funny. This is good stuff. This really works. But first of all, I have to make Axel Foley an undercover cop again. And then I went back to my muse, as I always do. What would what would Jesus do? What would James do? What would James Bond do? What did they do in the James Bond series when they were faced with exactly this problem? James Bond is too famous for a spy. He faked his own death.
Okay.
You only live twice. Beginning of your own trial, they collectively faked his death, so and sent him to the bottom of the sea, which they didn't really need to go through with in order to make the subterfuge work. But nonetheless, they sent him to the bottom of the sea in a coffin.
Moving on.
And then then he goes back to MM, gives him his new mission, and it's like, well, now everyone thinks you're dead, so you're back incognito again. So basically,
with the same face and still using your name, most likely.
Yeah, but he had that plastic surgery to look like he was Japanese, which, as I said in a previous episode, I thought as a kid would never come off, and that he was like that forever. But anyway, so the idea is Axel wants to do an undercover operation that depends on him not being the most famous cop in Detroit.
Mm-hmm.
So he has to manufacture a situation where everyone thinks he's dead, everyone relaxes, they're not going to see him coming to this operation. So he fakes his own death, but he has to, again, it's like in You Only Live Twice and like in any death faking stories, like The Third Man, you've got to deceive everyone.
Right.
Including your loved ones. You can't let your loved ones in on it. Everyone has to keep the secret. So we begin at Axel Foley's funeral in Detroit. Probably Al Green again as the minister.
Uh-huh.
He's it's like a 2-for-1 deal with Todd's funeral. And
bury one cop, get another cop free.
And then we can bring back all the legacy characters. We can have Taggart, we can have Rosewood, we can have his daughter, we can have the security guard that he fucked, who is revealed is actually the mother of his daughter.
Recently retired Paul Reiser.
And then I thought just an Eddie, something that I could pitch to Eddie Murphy and he'd really go for. Actually, I'm not going to have Al Green. I'm going to have Eddie Murphy play in prosthetics playing a preacher. But the audience is going to know that this isn't real. But they're going to think that that's Axel underneath there. And so the twist is going to be that that's not Axel in disguise, a la Three Men and a Little Lady.
That's just Eddie Murphy in disguise.
That's just Eddie Murphy doing one of his many movies where he plays multiple roles. Mm-hmm. And what happens, basically Rosewood gets a message from the funeral director as he says, the widow would like to see you. And he's like, widow? I didn't know he didn't say anything about being remarried. And he goes over to like a limousine where there's like a woman with a veil, and opens the car door, and then Axel drags him in, pulls back the veil, and it's Axel pretending to be this mysterious widow. And then he lets Rosewood in on the deal, and he says, you got to keep this quiet. Look, I know I'm testing everyone, and it's playing with the emotions. And Rose was like, yeah, well, you just reconciled with your daughter, and now you're playing her all over again. And he's like, yeah, but I got to, I'm gonna nail the biggest something dealer in Detroit,
right?
TBD. Someone else's SEV, someone else's problem. And he says, so I'm going to take down this operation. But of course, in the sting operation, he gets burnt and revealed. They find out he's still alive, so he has to hide out in LA. And he immediately calls up Rosewood and Taggart, and he's like, "Look, I gotta hide out here. You gotta find me like a safe house." And of course they're like, "Well, yeah, but you got to do it around these reality shows that we're filming." So it's kind of your mixture of. That's where you get your mixture of action, drama, and comedy. You get Axel hiding out in Beverly Beverly Hills with police officers where he should be well protected, but he's continually being exposed by being on camera in reality shows. It's all about, can he prevent himself from making it into the final cuts of these shows, whilst at some point the bad guys are going to figure out he's in Beverly Hills. So, though, those reality shows are going to become like action series because they're going to involve
shootouts.
They're going to be documenting shootouts and chases and all kinds of things like that. So basically, in a nutshell, the pitch is the Queen of Jordan episodes of 30 Rock, but good. And that is Beverly Hill Cops. Beverly's Hill Cops.
Excellent.
So there you go. So not really not a fully fleshed out idea, but you got some insight into my process, and you gotta.
I sure did. That was fun.
Yeah. So there you go. I gave you a behind the scenes making of the pitch.
Yeah, that was a good time.
It was a featurette.
I bet this week I remember your title.
And I bet this week I end up liking your title.
Well, I like you. Beverly Hills Cops.
Wow. First time ever. That's a first. We've never done that before.
Yeah, we've never done it before.
We're making history, people.
There's starting to be a convergence.
Yeah, it's actually quite alarming, isn't it?
It is. I'm worried, frankly.
So the lesson is, don't say our titles out loud on the podcast before we pitch them.
Before we pitch. Well, I'm making this 1990 sequel.
1990.
Because we got 87 and 94. That's a good, nice in-between spot.
Another 48 hours.
And
comes out same year.
Die Hard 2, Die Harder. And just the year before, I think it's 89, is Lethal Weapon 2. And I may as well cop to it now, because Lethal Weapon 2 and Die Hard 2 do something, although Lethal Weapon 2 in a much more action-packed way.
Yeah.
But both those movies start title, story, no credits.
Okay.
And I'll admit freely that I'm copying things from other movies and other sequels that I recognized was from other stuff, and I was too lazy to fix. I didn't care enough to fix it.
Like everyone else in Hollywood.
Yeah.
What's the big deal?
I should mention, I feel like, we've got our imbasses.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like I'm going for an almost purely inversion sequel.
Oh.
We're going to open, not in Detroit, but in Beverly Hills.
Mm-hmm.
In the middle of a car chase with Taggart and Rosewood chasing criminals in a Corvette. On the streets of Beverly Hills. Taggart is asking Billy to be careful. He's saying, Sarge, you don't need to worry. Everything's going to be fine. The chase goes on for several blocks. And as Taggart and Rosewood get close, someone gets out of the Corvette in front of them and starts shooting at them.
Yeah.
So Taggart gets out of his car and starts shooting back. And he's going to actually hit him, which makes him slump. And his gun accidentally goes off, hits the tire on the Corvette. And it's going to crash through the window at a store at the front of, Rodeo Drive.
Oh.
Which is pretty much a Lethal Weapon 2 move right there. Start with the car chase.
Yeah.
Crash into a window. they get on the CB. They're like, we need paramedics, we need fire, we need everybody. And they get out of their car, guns drawn, heading towards the car.
Yeah.
And they get to the car and see the guy in the passenger seat that was shooting at Taggart is halfway through the windshield. And they're going to go to the other side, and car door is open, guy's missing. They're looking all around the surrounding area. No one is there. He's gone. And Billy said, I kind of wish that this would be the end of the cold open, but it won't be. Billy says, fuck. And hard cut to Bogomil is at the crime scene. They're kind of going over the facts, everything that's going on. And they see that in the crash of the car, the kind of floor panel, exactly like in the French Connection, has kind of busted open, and there are drugs inside in those panels. And so they're filled with the cocaine. Bogomil asks Taggart, like, what do they know about this car? What have they found out? Taggart says, this is my research part of the pitch here, Tom. Taggart says that they're dealer plates, and all dealer plates have unique identifiers for the dealer's license plate number, which are plates issued to specific dealers. And Bogomil asks, all right, where are they from? And Taggart says, Detroit, Michigan. Hard cut to credits, baby. We're in Detroit.
Amazing.
At the end of the credits, we see Axel Foley just walking into the police station to applause, and like one of the cops says, Jesus Christ, Foley, a city bus?
But we're not going to see it?
We're not going to see the
great,
big
because you already spent all the money on the cold open.
So Jeffrey will come up and say, why are you always haggling for money? And do you even know how undercover investigations work?
Yeah.
And the next thing we hear is Inspector Todd yelling for Foley to get his ass up here into the office. Murphy's, hedging and hawing and hemming, and he's saying, look, boss, and he says, get the fuck in here. And he's trying to convince Inspector Todd that he's on to something bigger, because when he walked in, they weren't expecting him so soon. And he thinks this is more than just a car theft problem. He thinks that drugs are involved. Inspector Todd is going to say, you're turning a simple car bust at a car dealership into a drug bust. And they end up having a huge fight, and Inspector Todd is telling Foley, you're suspended, turn in the gun and badge. Immediately, Taggart and Rosewood walk in, and they have Captain Bogomil on the phone, and they're asking that Detective Foley work with them on their case. And LA's mayor has talked to your mayor, and they remember everything that's happened in the past, and they think this is a great idea. So
make
now,
sure you call your parents.
Yeah,
so
Inspector
sure
Todd
stay over.
has been bested by the mayors of both Detroit and Los Angeles, and he says, by the time you're done, I'm going to be out of a fucking job. So what ends up happening is our heroes, they're going to find a conspiracy. I doubt that GM is going to agree to this, but it was a Corvette that they were chasing. And there's a conspiracy with GM and like half a dozen dealerships to send drugs in those panels of cars and cars on freight containers headed to the Philippines, like French Connection style. And we're going to meet the power-hungry VP for GM. And what I started to realize is because we're in 1990, we're at the end of the Reagan era, and I guess kind of the end of a cocaine era. I don't know, but cocaine was big in the 80s. Reagan was big in the 80s. And he's sort of a commentary. The villain is kind of a commentary on...
Oh, yeah, your idea. I forgot all about this.
On this sort of unfettered love for big business and the lack of restraints that can continue all the way up to the top of a corporation, so much so that they can be huge, massive criminals.
Yeah.
And what does the government care? They're all for corporations.
Right.
So that's sort of the Uber idea. And then as our heroes start focusing on their investigation towards GM, Inspector Todd's got to have to bring them in. And the chief's getting pressure from his mayor now because of where the investigation has gone.
Mm-hmm.
And the mayor got pressure from the governor saying, like, you guys have to back off. I mean, we're talking about the big three automobile industry. This is most of how this city earns a living. And you can't fuck that up.
Oh, that's so smart to make it about the auto industry in Detroit. Well, you still can.
Well, you still can. Exactly. 1990.
That's why you didn't pick, like, somewhere in the 2010s, I'm assuming.
Right.
Yeah. Got it. Clear. Got it.
But, you know our boys. It's like, so the inversion part, too, is like, everybody has permission to go to the city they're in. They don't have to pull a subterfuge to get onto the case or anything like that. But as the boys press on with their investigation, they're following clues. There'll be, a battle between the powers that be in big business and law enforcement. Baddies will probably send assassins after them.
Right.
But, of course, they'll always be helped by Billy's own personal armory that he's carrying around.
Sure. Which is still in play in 1990.
Still in play in 1990.
Where he forgets about it by 94.
And then, of course, by the end, you're going to have a big shootout inside of a car factory, right where it belongs in a Beverly Hills Cop movie that's not in Beverly Hills.
Yeah.
And that's how all of this comes to a head, and they win the day.
That's great.
So they have to take down big business.
That's totally what they should have done for the sequel. Even the first sequel, I'd argue.
And that's the thing, was that it's a better idea for the first sequel.
Yeah.
But time-wise, it does. I mean, I could shoehorn it in if I wanted to, because I have a time machine. Who cares? But
no,
it's funny because even naming it Beverly Hills Cops felt like Aliens to me.
Yeah.
And
well,
so
you couldn't very well call it Beverly Hills Cop Squared.
Right.
Cubed. Yes. Beverly Hills Cubed. That kind of works. Beverly Hills Cubed kind of works.
But because the two cops from Beverly Hills are coming to Detroit, Michigan, it's Beverly Hills Cops.
Beverly Hill Metheus. Beverly Hills Covenant.
So there you have it. My Beverly Hills Cops.
Beverly Hills Romulus.
Less good.
Yeah, Beverly Hills versus Lethal Weapon. And Beverly Hills versus Lethal Weapon Requiem. Yeah, as I say, I think rivals the first sequel. Much better idea. I wouldn't want to not have part 2, but
right.
It's definitely.
But you get rid of all that shit about best friends and.
Yeah.
Sure, they know each other and now they're going to work together again, but you don't have to have pictures of fishing trips throughout the rest of all your fucking movies till the end of time.
It's a lot less, because it sounds counterintuitive, but it's a lot less heavy lifting narratively.
Yeah, right.
The way you're doing it, because you're just kind of flipping the mattress.
Mm-hmm.
You're not effectively changing anything about the formula.
No. But you're doing an inversion thing because you're going from Beverly Hills to Detroit, and the main action will be in Detroit.
I'm trying to think if there's any sequel that we know that does that. Obviously, Aliens does it with the title, but not really. It's not really an inversion. It's more of a magnification.
Yeah, it's more of an expansion.
Yeah. But is there I suppose travel sequels sort of are a bit like that. But that's still the person... Beverly Hills Cop is a travel log anyway.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to think if there is one where it's like
European Vacation, they're traveling, but in Christmas Vacation, they stay home.
That's interesting. Whether there are any pure inversion sequels where they just reverse, they just reverse engineer the first one. I guess Back to the Future 2, a little bit. Some of like, not the whole movie. That's like 3 movies in one, anyway.
Right. I mean, because you do go to the past, but the main point is you're going to the future.
Yeah. Interesting. It's like The Time Machine, but done as 2 movies.
Mm-hmm.
I guess 3. I guess the whole. Anyway, we'll talk about that another time.
We already did.
Yeah, we talk. Yeah, and we may again.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, yeah. The thumbs up for yours, and at least the content of our pitches were different, if not the titles.
Yeah. Right. Very different.
And we were
movies
in different places in the timeline.
Different eras. Yeah.
Different rest stops along the way.
Absolutely.
So, we've done some of the work of variety, but just not all of it. It's a little bit like the final chapter, the final Friday.
Yeah, right.
Very different movies, but
yeah,
some of the same words in the title. Or I guess Halloween is the worst culprit for that, isn't it? Because there's three Halloweens in the Halloween series.
Yeah, right.
And 2 Halloween 2s.
Well, yeah, but
the zombie Halloween 2.
Yeah, but even the one titled Halloween is kind of a Halloween 2 from 2018.
Right.
So you have the regular, the zombie, the 18, and then technically you have Halloween Kills, which is a 2 out of 3. Yeah. But it's all very convoluted.
It is, yeah.
All right. Well, there you have it.
Yeah. That was fun.
Yeah, it's a good time.
I was thinking about this the other day, and we can talk more on our poster ranking episode, but at no point watching these movies, even though 2 of them I really didn't enjoy, I still really enjoyed watching them.
Okay.
And I'm not quite sure why. I think it was because it was interesting to me in a historical sense, and that kind of kept me going through the lows.
Yeah, it's funny. As much as I hate Beverly Hills Cop 3,
no,
it's not unwatchable. It's like watching a car crash. It's not even a car crash because it's more mesmerizing than that. Because you're baffled by the choices being made.
It's a Small World. Which they have a version of, don't they? What's their version of It's a Small World? It's something...
I don't remember.
It's like a public domain, It's a Small World.
Yeah.
Well, that says something, I think, about the general baseline of these movies is that they're entertaining and fun to watch, if not always successful. And even the first sequel has some issues, and like you say, it's a little sweaty sometimes.
But utterly watchable.
Yeah, the most watchable of all of them. Sure.
Definitely.
But I don't know. I think, again, going back to the ranking episode, I think it was easier to make a straightforward cash grab sequel in that era.
Sure.
And now you can't really do that anymore.
Right, because you have to be thinking about IP.
And you're just not allowed to just be a kind of shitty gratuitous sequel anymore.
Yeah.
Because there's nothing, partly because the market is already saturated with those, but it's just not, people expect something more complicated or like, yeah, something that is kind of linked to the other films in a complicated way.
Yeah.
That's a shame.
Yeah. I mean, people should listen to us.
They won't.
No.
They're making too much money out of it. They don't even have to make films to make money. In fact, that seems to hurt them when they actually produce the films.
Right.
All they have to do is say to the boards of their various companies, we're making this movie. Stock rises. We decided we weren't going to make it.
Yeah.
That's it.
Or it doesn't have to make money and you still claim it as a success.
Right. It's the producers. It's the storyline of the producers, but now that's our entire industry.
Yeah. All right. Happy notes, as always, at the end.
Yeah.
Anything left for you?
No, I'm going to go off and cancel my Netflix, I think. I can't do that. I'm not caught up with Cobra Kai, so I can't do that.
All right.
Even if I wanted to. I've still got 5 or 6 episodes of that left to watch. Too many Gene Hackman movies.
Me too. Well, I didn't start the last one.
Yeah, you got a lot to catch up on.
I got lots of work to catch up on, so.
But unfortunately, Gene Hackman isn't in an episode of Cobra Kai, so it'll have to wait. Till I've watched everything streaming has to offer of Gene Hackman. When I'm watching, I'm trying to think, it's like, what's going to be the one where the tide turns? And I'm like, you know what? I want to watch something with that Gene Hackman in it now. It's yet to come.
After you watch Loose Cannons?
I should just put on, if I wanted to stop, I should just put on Welcome to Mooseport, shouldn't I? And just...
Yes, right.
Just, like, wean myself off it. No, right, and even
that's not a wean. States, that's just cutting your arm off.
Yeah, that is. That's just
cauterize it. Just
that's it. That's just ripping the nipple off with my mouth still attached to it.
Yeah. Now that was the note to end on.
Yeah.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, you're gonna have to tell us which of these pitches you like the most, or do you have a better pitch? So, by all means, send those pitches to us. We want to know what you think. What would you do with the Beverly Hills Cop series? To tell us, find us on Facebook, find us on Instagram, X, or Threads, or Bluesky, or send an email to everythingsequel@gmail.com. That's it. That's all. We're done. Say goodbye to everybody, Tom.
Axel, Ashley, if we were together, we'd be actually. Are you going to buy the house? Comedy masterclass.
Excellent.
From Nassim Perdad. Every time I say that, I feel like I'm saying I'm John Travolta saying Adina Menzel.
Yeah, yeah.
That's like that can't be right. It's closer than Adele Dazeem. Is that what he said?
I think that sounds right. Yeah.
Adele Dazeem, but still, it's got a flavor of Adele Dazeem.
Wasn't it Josh Gad that came out and introduced her the next year and said pronounce exactly or sounds exactly like it's or pronounce exactly like it looks.
See, it's not so easy, is it?
Yeah.
Poor dyslexic John Travolta up there getting mocked. Did you know that the Everything Sequel podcast has a sequel? It's our Patreon, and for a low monthly donation, you can get up to 2 exclusive, full-length, ad-free bonus episodes. $5 a month gets you an episode discussing all the original movies from the series we've covered on the podcast. And that's a lot of snakeheads. But $10 a month scores you the reboot to boot. Support Everything Sequel on Patreon and reap the benefits of amazing brand new content you quite literally can't get anywhere else. Got more money than sense? We also offer one-time payments that will get you in the driver's seat of the podcast. Maybe even the passenger seat. That metaphor doesn't work, but our show does. So join the Patreon and believe the hype. It's a sequel.